He had always been there for her. From late-night phone calls about her bad dates to early morning coffee runs before class, Nathan was the steady presence in Emily's chaotic life. They'd been friends since their sophomore year at NYU, a bond forged through shared classes, mutual friends, and a genuine understanding that seemed rare in a city of millions. While others came and went, Nathan remained reliable, patient, quietly attentive. Emily had been dating a guy named Josh for the past year and a half. Nathan never liked him. It wasn't jealousy, at least not at first. Josh was loud, impulsive, the kind of guy who always had to be the center of attention. Emily seemed smitten, though, and Nathan respected her choice. He swallowed his feelings and played the supportive friend. That was his role. But things changed. The relationship between Emily and Josh deteriorated over time. Arguments, tears, long nights of doubt. Nathan witnessed it all from the sidelines, never saying much, just being there. When the final breakup came, Emily was a wreck. She cried on Nathan's couch for hours, unable to understand how everything had fallen apart. A few days later, with her voice still fragile and her heart clearly still raw, Emily looked at Nathan with a different kind of expression. "I don't want to be alone," she said softly. Maybe we could try being more than friends." Nathan's heart skipped. He'd imagined this moment for years, but not like this, not born from someone else's absence. Still, he agreed. How could he say no to the girl he'd quietly loved for so long? They started seeing each other, slowly at first. Dinner dates, walks through Central Park, late nights that ended with soft goodbyes and lingering glances. Nathan was careful. He didn't want to overwhelm her, didn't want to rush what could finally become something real. To him, it felt like the beginning of something beautiful. She laughed more. She held his hand. She looked at him, not through him. Nathan allowed himself to believe that maybe, after all this time, she saw him the same way he saw her. But sometimes, in quiet moments, he noticed shadows behind her eyes. When a song played on the radio that reminded her of Josh, when a text came in and she quickly turned the screen away, when her smile felt just a little too forced. Nathan ignored it. He told himself it was just the past haunting her, and that he could be the one to heal her. He wanted to be her future. He just didn't realize he was still part of her recovery. They continued their relationship for a few months. Nathan grew more comfortable, more hopeful. He found himself making long-term plans in his mind, thinking about where they might live, what kind of dog she'd want, even imagining introducing her to his parents, not as a friend, but as someone who meant something more. Emily sometimes seemed genuinely happy. There were mornings they'd lie in bed laughing over coffee and podcasts. She'd talk about starting fresh, maybe moving out of the apartment she once shared with Josh. Nathan hung on to those moments like lifelines, but cracks began to form. She canceled dates. She stopped replying to texts as quickly. She seemed distant, distracted. Nathan tried to be patient, tried to believe it was just stress or leftover pain, but something had changed, and deep down, he could feel it. One night, they sat in her apartment watching an old movie. She barely touched her food. Her phone buzzed twice, and each time she glanced at it with a familiar expression, one Nathan had seen many times before. It was the look she used to have when Josh texted her during their movie nights as friends. Nathan didn't say anything. Not yet. He didn't want to believe it. He didn't want to ask a question he wasn't ready to hear the answer to. But his silence didn't stop the truth from arriving. Emily grew colder. There were more excuses, more distance. Her voice lost its warmth. She stopped laughing at his jokes. The once bright spark that had ignited between them was slowly being smothered by something he couldn't name. He started to feel like a placeholder, like a shadow standing in for someone else. And eventually the uneasy suspicion became impossible to ignore. He checked her social media late one night. Nothing obvious, nothing damning. But Josh had started liking her posts again. and she had started liking his. He told himself it was innocent, just leftover digital echoes of a long-dead relationship. But in his gut, he knew better. And yet, he stayed. Because love makes people foolish. Hope makes them blind. He still believed that maybe she would choose him. That maybe, when all the dust settled, he'd be the one she held on to. But as her silence grew louder than words, he began to understand something was slipping away. Nathan didn't want to jump to conclusions. He didn't want to be the jealous guy who interrogates his partner about every glance, every text, every like on Instagram. But his gut wouldn't quiet down. Something was wrong, and pretending otherwise was starting to tear him apart. He decided to confront her, not in anger, but in quiet, measured honesty. One evening, after dinner at her place, while she was clearing the plates, he asked, "Are you still talking to Josh?" Emily froze. Just for a moment. Barely a second. But it was long enough. 1,000 thoughts must have run through her head in that silence. When she turned around, her expression was carefully neutral. "We've exchanged a few messages," she said. "It's not a big deal." But it was. To Nathan, it was a very big deal. "What kind of messages?" he asked. Just catching up, checking in. That's all." Nathan looked at her, searching for something real in her face. Some trace of the girl who once laughed with him in the middle of rainy streets, who once said she felt safe with him in a way she never had with anyone else. "Are you still in love with him?" he asked. Another pause. Then she sat down across from him, not quite meeting his eyes. "I don't know," she admitted. "I thought I wasn't. I thought I had moved on. But when he reached out, it brought back everything. The good, the bad, all of it." Nathan's heart sank. He felt the weight of every late night he spent listening to her cry over Josh, every time he held her when she was breaking, every moment he'd hoped that maybe, finally, he would be enough. "And me?" he said, barely above a whisper. "What was I?" She looked at him then. Her eyes filled with something he couldn't read, regret, maybe. Pity. But not love. "You were what I needed," she said. "In that moment, you helped me get through the worst of it." He blinked. "So I was a distraction?" "No," she said quickly. "Not just that. You were more than that. But I don't know if I was ever really ready for this. For us." Those words hit harder than she realized, because to Nathan there had always been an us, even before there were kisses or dates or promises. In his mind, they had always been moving toward something. And now, suddenly, he was being told it had all been temporary, that he had been a chapter, not the story. He stood up, unable to sit still anymore. "I need some time," he said. "I need space." She nodded, but there was no fight in her. "No, wait, no, I'm sorry, no, please don't go." Just a quiet nod, like she had expected this outcome all along. Nathan left her apartment that night with a hollow chest and shaking hands. Outside, the city was loud, but all he could hear was the echo of her voice. I don't know. The days that followed were slow, heavy. He stopped checking his phone for her messages. He unfollowed her online. He started walking longer routes home just to avoid places that reminded him of her. It wasn't dramatic. It was just sad. She didn't reach out. Not once. And that, in itself, was an answer. Nathan began to reevaluate everything. The way she had looked at him, the timing of their first kiss, the conversations that felt meaningful but maybe weren't. Had she been sincere? Or had he just seen what he wanted to see? He realized he had loved her far longer and far deeper than she ever loved him. But what stung most wasn't the end of their romantic relationship, it was the death of their friendship, the one thing that had always felt untouchable. They had been best friends once. They had shared stupid jokes, inside references, late-night confessions. That bond was supposed to be unbreakable. and now it was gone. One afternoon, a mutual friend mentioned in passing that Emily and Josh were trying things again. Nathan didn't ask for details. He didn't want them. He just nodded, smiled politely, and changed the subject. Inside, though, something broke. He felt replaced, discarded, like he had been a bridge she had crossed just to get back to the same shore she once ran from. People talk about heartbreak like it's a sharp pain, but for Nathan, it was a slow erosion. Every day took a little more of him. Every reminder, every silence, every memory that now carried a different meaning. He tried to fill the space she left. Went out with friends more, picked up extra shifts at work, started jogging again. Anything to outrun the ghost of what they never really were. He even tried dating, but it felt hollow. No one laughed like she did. No one knew his favorite songs, or the way he liked his coffee, or the fact that he always knocked on wood twice when nervous. No one was her, but she had chosen someone else. Again. Knowing full well what that meant. And that truth, no matter how he twisted it, never stopped hurting. Weeks turned into months. Life moved on, at least on the surface. Nathan smiled more, laughed at coworkers' jokes, called his mom regularly. But there was a part of him, quiet, bruised, that hadn't healed. The kind of hurt that doesn't scream. The kind that whispers at night when the world gets still. He hadn't spoken to Emily since that night. There were no texts, no apologies, no attempts to explain or fix what had been broken. And honestly, he didn't know what he would have said, even if she had reached out. What do you say to someone who turned your love into a detour? But closure, as he would learn, doesn't always come in conversation. Sometimes it comes from silence. One Saturday morning in late spring, Nathan ran into a mutual friend at a bookstore. Casual chat turned into catch-up, and before he could stop it, the topic turned to Emily again. She and Josh broke up, the friend said, almost offhandedly. For good this time, apparently. He ghosted her out of nowhere. Real mess. Nathan didn't react. Not outwardly. Inside, though, something shifted. Not satisfaction. Not revenge. Just clarity. He didn't need to know the details. He didn't care how or why or when it ended. What struck him most was that Emily, who had once looked at him like he was her safe place, was now alone. And not just romantically. Alone. Alone. She had burned a bridge without realizing there might never be a way back. Later that day, he walked through the old part of the city, the neighborhoods they used to wander aimlessly together, coffees in hand, talking about nothing and everything. It felt different now. Not painful, just quieter. As if those memories had settled into something softer, less sharp. He thought about what might have been. Of course he did. He wondered if she ever thought about him, if she regretted how things ended, if she missed the friendship they once had. But the truth? It didn't matter anymore. Because by now, Nathan had learned something valuable. Sometimes, you're not the main character in someone else's story. You're a chapter, a turning point, a lesson. And that's okay. What mattered more was the story he was writing for himself. He took up photography again, something Emily had once encouraged, back when they were just friends. He captured moments, strangers on subways, golden hour in the park, his neighbor's cat sunbathing on a windowsill. Small things, but meaningful. Things that reminded him life still had beauty, even after heartbreak. He also started journaling. At first it was just venting, trying to get the noise out of his head, but eventually it turned into reflection, gratitude, growth. He wrote about who he was, who he wanted to be. He wrote about love, not the kind he lost, but the kind he still believed in. And bit by bit, he reclaimed pieces of himself. One afternoon, months after that final conversation with Emily, Nathan sat in a quiet cafe working on his laptop. The door opened, the bell chimed, and for a second, everything inside him braced. It was her. Emily looked the same, almost. Her hair was longer, her expression a little tired, her smile hesitant. She spotted him immediately and walked over. "Hey," she said softly. "Hey." There was a long pause, the kind that holds too many unsaid things. "Can I sit?" she asked. Nathan nodded. She pulled out the chair. "I've been meaning to reach out," she said. "I just didn't know what to say." Nathan sipped his coffee. "It's okay. You don't have to." "I hurt you," she said, "more than I realized, and I know I can't undo that." He nodded. "Yeah, you did." She looked down at her hands. "Josh left. For real this time. Just disappeared. And after that, I started thinking about everything. About you. About how I treated you." Nathan didn't speak. He just listened. "I used you," she said. "I was hurting, and you were safe. And that wasn't fair. You deserved more than what I gave you." He looked at her. "Why now?" "Because I finally stopped lying to myself," she said. "I lost a good friend, the best one I ever had, and I hate that." He sat back in his chair. For a moment, he considered everything he could say, all the ways he could tell her how deeply she had wounded him. All the nights he replayed their conversations, looking for signs he missed, all the love he gave that was never truly returned, but he didn't say any of that. "Thanks for saying it," he said. "Really?" She nodded, eyes glossy. "Do you think we could ever be friends again?" Nathan thought about it. He really did. And for the first time, he wasn't sure. Not out of anger. Just self-preservation. "I don't know," he said. "Maybe. But not now." She nodded again, understanding. "I get it." They sat there for another minute. Then she stood, gave a small wave, and left. As the door shut behind her, Nathan felt something unexpected. Peace. Not closure from her. Closure from himself. Because the truth is, people will come and go. Some will love you deeply. Some will hurt you without meaning to. And some, like Emily, will be both. But healing doesn't come from their apologies. It comes from your ability to move forward anyway. Nathan gathered his things, walked out into the afternoon sun, and for the first time in a long time, he felt free. Not because he had forgotten her, but because he had finally remembered himself.